All right, so practice 1 for 6NS6. One of the first things I want you to pay attention to is when you're deciding what the sign of your number is going to be. So when you're looking at, if you're given like a -3 and then you want the opposite of that, then it's a +3. But if I want the opposite of the opposite of the -3, so -3, +3, -3. But then if I want the opposite of the opposite of the opposite of the opposite of 3, I end up negative, positive, so with a +3. So if you pay attention to it, every negative cancels each other out, so an opposite, opposite cancel each other, opposite, opposite cancel each other. So if I have an even number, I should end up with an even amount of negative signs, I should end up with a positive number. If I end up with an odd amount, so again here, I only have those two that cancel each other out, but then I still have this negative, so my answer is negative. Now, when we're talking about how to plot, when we're given the direction in words, you need to remember that the ordered pair is always written as x, comma, y. And x tells us which way to go left and right, and y tells us which way to go up and down. So here I want to go 1.5 units down and 10 units left. So what this tells me is that both numbers are going to be negative, because going left on the number line makes it negative and going down on the number line makes it negative. But it's not the 1.5 that's listed first, it's the -10, because that is the left and right value. So I end up with the ordered pair -10, -1.5. And then when I look at where I end up on my grid or on my coordinate plane, again, we have to remember it goes counterclockwise. So I end up in 1, 2, 3. I'm in quadrant 3. Okay, now when I talk about reflecting the point, what I'm saying is if I were to fold my quadrant here, so fold it on the y-axis, where would my point go? So right now my point is somewhere in here. If I fold it over the y-axis, my point isn't going to go up, it's actually going to go over. So it's going to end up in quadrant 4. If I reflect it over the x-axis, so here, it is actually going to go up and end up in quadrant 2. Now, for the ordered pair, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. But if you reflect over the y-axis, remember we said it moves left and right. So now instead of being at a -10, it's flipping over and it's going to be at a +10. But it didn't move up at all, so it's still at a -1.5. So when I reflect over the y-axis, it's my x that changes. And same thing for the x-axis. So when I reflected it, it went up. So my 10 stayed negative because I didn't move to the right, but my 1.5 turned positive. So again, when you're reflecting, it's the whatever axis you reflect over, it's the opposite coordinate that changes signs. Right, so make sure that you finish up your practice work and that you turn it in at the end of class.